Hey guys, what's up? Jordan Orell here, making my daily video on circumcision. And today I would like to talk about an aspect of trauma healing, actually, which I've done in the past, of course, my daily circumcision trauma healing videos. Right now I am in the process of editing those videos, of editing out really just the ones that aren't good, getting rid of those ones, and just narrowing it down to the good ones so you guys have just those. And in the process, I'm also going through them myself and doing them all, which I, again, recommend to everybody. I stopped creating the videos because there's around 50 of them already there, and you can just keep on going through those ones again and again and again. There's no reason you can't repeat those. And plus, I'm trying to do 2 a day so I can take out all the ones that are just not good, and, weed it down to the ones that are just good, so you'll have maybe a month or so of the best exercises I've done on circumcision trauma healing. And it's just repeating those over and over and over again. But today I'd like to expand with one in particular that I haven't talked about before, actually, that's been somewhat helpful to me at different times, which is using psychedelics to heal, or other substances. So you can use, typical substances like an SSRI is very helpful during a period of going through trauma. It's a antidepressant and anti-anxiety, kind of just helps with a lot of the PTSD symptoms, and especially if they're really severe, that can be helpful. But I would also say that there are many other substances that are not typically used that can be very helpful, and some that have been they've all been experimented with to one degree or another. They include LSD, they include psilocybin mushrooms, they include ayahuasca, which is basically liquid DMT used in the Amazonian rainforests, Peru and places like that, and MDMA, most of all, perhaps, and also cannabis can be helpful in this. So I'm not going to go deeply into all of those today because that's a lot. But I'll just give you a general sort of overview of what the attitude is, what the precautions are, and how to get the most out of an experience using any of those. So the first thing I would say is really important to understand is that you want to be safe. You want to use a very small amount to start with, and then you can work up to the dose that you think would be ideal. With all of those, you can research online, try to figure out, how much would be useful. And usually you want to just start with a low dose, though. And it can also be very useful if you actually are experienced with the substance before trying to use it in a therapeutic setting. Having used it several times and sort of knowing how it works, what it feels like, what the experience is like before you actually do it can be really useful. Because with all of these, they can lead to very bad experiences, especially if you overuse them. Even if you only use a slight bit, it might not be pleasant with every use, and that's something that's really important to keep in mind. So start with a small dose, and the next important thing is set and setting, which is your set is the mental set that you're going into this with. You want to go in with a clear idea of the healing that you want to achieve through it, and have a plan of sort of what you're wanting to work through. You can set out some intentions in a Word document or write them down, things that you want to think about, things that you want to write down during the experience, things that you want to contemplate or go over. You won't always follow that precisely, but always make sure to have a strong intention and stay with that intention to heal as much as you can throughout the experience. And that's how you get the most healing out of it, because otherwise, with all of these, you can kind of get sucked into their own vortex of experience. So that's the set that you want to go in. Understand that it's about healing, and the setting is, be in a place where you're comfortable. You want to do this when you're not sick. The sick of mistake of doing psilocybin mushrooms once. The first time when I ever experimented with them, I was sick, and I thought these will make me feel better, and it certainly amplified the feelings I had, which were not good, and it was very, very unpleasant. So, be prepared. Even if you're in a perfect setting, that means, do it during the right time of day. Earlier in the day is better. You want to do it with a setting where you feel totally comfortable and relaxed, where you're not going to have to go and do something. You probably want to turn your phone off. Make sure that nothing's going to disrupt you. Get into a meditative state, relax, have that clear intention, and that's how you want to approach this. And remember, even if you do that, you may still experience some very unpleasant sensations during any psychedelic experience, and that's just part of it. You have to be willing to face some of that pain and some of that sometimes intense mood or it can be a trippiness to it, that's why they call it psychedelics. It puts you on this weird trip. It can be very existential, very painful, but even some of the most painful experiences can actually lead to a lot of healing. So don't discount it just because it's doesn't feel good. You still want to stick with it, stick with your intention. Again, if you're starting from a small dose and working your way up, that shouldn't be a problem, because you're not going to go way overboard and have a crazy, awful experience if you start with a very small dose, almost a threshold dose, meaning, find out the least you can take and still experience something from it, and then kind of work your way up. So, setting, being careful, having an intention, and the next thing I would say is really, as I said, it's definitely useful to have done some stuff with psychedelics before you actually try to heal with them. But it's also actually useful to have done other healing work before this. So if you've done, something like my daily videos for a month or something like that, then it's going to be much more easy to go into this, because otherwise, if you haven't tried to face these feelings ever before, and then you try to face them on a psychedelic trip, then that could it could lead to healing, or it could just lead to re-traumatization. So if you kind of know what you're doing before you try to do it by having done some therapy, if you can also find a therapist who will go through this process with you, that can be a really, really great help. But if not, then you can do it with yourself. You just want to make sure that you know that therapeutic process, understand exercises you might want to do, ways of approaching this. A lot of that has to do with just being willing to feel your feelings, being willing to explore those areas in your mind, being willing to, have love for those parts of yourself, have compassion, all the things I talk about again in my videos. Would highly recommend going through those daily videos before trying to attempt something like this. So another thing I'd like to just talk about is there are differences between different substances. What I'd actually recommend most highly is really MDMA. It's been studied for PTSD quite thoroughly, and so if you can do that, that's what I'd definitely recommend most strongly, is just going for that. MDMA allows you to have a approach response rather than trying to, what we usually do, escape things. It kind of damps down that fear so that we can experience all of our feelings around this, all of the pain around it, and have the kind of loving experience that really is so conducive to healing that I try to generate with a lot of my videos, is, to show how to open your heart and have love for yourself. Using MDMA, it artificially creates an extremely powerful experience of that, and I believe that's, why it's basically been proven to be the most effective therapy of all time, is using MDMA for war veterans, is what they've used it for in the past, for that PTSD, and they found that with, veterans who couldn't heal from almost any therapy, they've tried like literally everything, and this had, I think, like an 80% success rate of success. and which is crazy. I mean, that nothing else worked. They tried everything, repeated therapy, and then used MDMA a few sessions. I mean, granted, the sessions are hours long each, with a couple skilled therapists both working with the person as they're doing it. So if you use all these techniques, it may help you to achieve some of that effect, but I can't tell you with certainty that it will. It's definitely helped me. I'll also say that all of the substances that I mentioned have helped me in different ways, bring me into a state where my mind is more open, where I have more clarity, where I have more ability to see all the things that I don't usually see and experience them in a different way. It sort of resets those patterns and allows me to, break out of the places that I'm stuck and start to bring loving energy to all of those emotions. All of these psychedelics are very emotional experiences, as well as very insight-based, meaning they bring you a lot of new perspectives and viewpoints and visions and ideas, and all of that can, help loosen up sort of some of this trauma. And so, like anything, this takes time. Repeated sessions can be helpful. You don't want to overuse any of these. They can all be, I think, destructive if misused, and they're all really, I love drugs so much. I definitely am aware that I can't officially tell you that you should be taking drugs. So I'm not telling you to take drugs. What I'm telling you is, if you're already going to take drugs, then take these suggestions I'm giving you. Be careful, I'm not giving you drugs. I'm not giving you access to this. Unfortunately, our society still has laws against all of this. We are studying all of these substances, by the way, for their healing potentials and having amazing results, but a lot of them are still illegal due to political and conspiracy conditions that are actually accurate in this case. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there is a lot of conspiracies around the repression of psychedelics in our country, unfortunately. But yeah, these are all great things to use. Would highly recommend using these tips. Not using the drugs, of course. I can't recommend that, but using these tips if you are already, a felon, you dirty sinner. So that's my suggestion to you, and I hope that this benefits you. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, any comments, what's your experience with this? And just experiment over time. It's a long journey, so salute to you on that. Hope you're all having a great day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.